Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Few, not another podcast. Yes, another podcast, but this one, I promise you, you're going to enjoy. I'm here with my co-host, Jess Bost. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm Alex Chalekian. We're going to go over a couple of things today in our first episode. We're going to talk about our stories, talk about how we met, why we decided to launch this podcast, and share a couple of things for you to know why you should tune in and listen to the rest of the episodes that come. You ready? Let's go. All right. So, Jess, you want me to start?
I
You want to
do.
start?
Your story predates mine.
All right, because I'm old. I know.
You're
I
old.
got it. I got it. You don't have to mention it. All right. So just share a little bit about my
You
background.
got a little more gray.
A little bit more gray. Yes. Yeah. It will be all white soon. This is what happens when you get married for the second time, I think. I don't know. But anyways, so just a little bit about my background. I decided to come into this industry when I was 21, and I didn't think I wanted to be a financial advisor. I was studying to be an accountant actually in college. But one of the things that I noticed growing up, coming from a family of immigrants, it was that they had a hard time getting access to good advice. Money issues would always come up. They were constantly battling, trying to figure out how am I going to pay the bills, what's going to happen. Taxes was always a problem and concerns there. Inflation would creep up, just all of the things in life. I wanted to learn more about finances, investing, something I enjoyed myself. And I was hoping that I could use that information to share on with my family and friends as well. Back in 94, 95, when we were starting to finally see some online accounts and things, I actually had a broker at a wirehouse that I would call and place trades, doing things like the Yahoo IPO and other stuff. Anyways, I learned, I cut my teeth, I bought mutual funds, all the old mutual fund companies like Putnam and Oppenheimer and all this, just leading up to the year 2000. So those things were doing really well, but I was learning a lot. And then eventually, as I started to do that, I realized, I actually enjoy this, and I rather do this for a living than sit in there and prepare people's taxes. Actually clerk at a tax firm, a CPA firm for a year. And while I was there, I realized, no offense, accountants, but they were miserable. So half of the year they were bored, and then the other half of the year they were just going 100 miles per hour, and they were not happy. So I realized that wasn't for me, and I would focus on this. So when I was 21, I decided to get licensed in the industry. And I was, again, young. I didn't really have much responsibilities or anything at that time. And I figured, if I'm going to do this, let me do it now. And worst case scenario, if this doesn't work out, at least I have the knowledge that came with it. So I jumped into the industry and haven't looked back since.
One of the things that came to mind while you were talking, and as you were sharing your story, that I think it resonates with me as well, is this idea of representation.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm struggling and I look around for people like me, do I see stories of people who've gone from where I am to a better place? Have they been able to, whether it's pull themselves up by their bootstraps or reach out and find support? Like, do people like me get to advance? Do they get to move up? Do they get to a better place? And that was a lot of my story coming into financial services. I didn't start at 21. I didn't start at 31. I was 30, almost 35 before I started in this industry.
So last year.
Yeah. We'll say that. No, I like saying it's been a little longer than that, because I like now having earned the experience in being here. So I've been now here for almost 8 years, but that was part of my story coming into the financial services. Was I was going through my own personal financial discovery for myself as a woman, as a wife. Culturally, in my experience, it was in the South, where I got married young, thinking that the husband would be the one running the finances, managing the finances, making the money. for the family that, maybe I would make some, but it would just it would be an effort to support what he's doing, but it all really revolved around him
Right.
and his ability to financially move up. And that wasn't our story. And along the way, I'm sure we'll get into pieces of that, but the pain and the struggle that we went through in our marriage and I went through personally of discovering that what I was told traditionally needs to happen wasn't working for us, and having to get to the place of saying, well, I don't care if I break things, like I have to figure it out.
Right.
And finding other women that I could, look to and say, well, they've figured it out. What did they do? And, they're doing well and their family is doing well. Their kids are doing well, even though the woman is the breadwinner in the family. So it doesn't have to, there's not this one set way of doing. And as I started to learn and discover that for myself, it became clear that there were other women like me.
You're right.
That were also either on that same part of the journey or in other places on that journey, maybe even some that were starting that journey that I could help just by, one, sharing my story, but then two, focusing on how can I pay this forward, the things that I'm learning here, what can I turn around and do to help them move forward too. I think so much of our stories, even though they started at different times and in different places and have different aspects to them, there's a lot that's related and why we're both here doing what we're doing.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I love working together. Maybe in that vein, you want to share what led us to this path, how we finally started to work together?
Yeah. So I remember being in my second year working at an independent firm in Augusta, Georgia, thinking to myself, I have this passion for women specifically. I want to be able to speak to their needs, and I want to do things my way. Like I want to have some autonomy and agency in the way that I work with them. And some of that too is related to just AUM minimums and this financial planning focus that we have at the firm. Where if people haven't, if they don't have a lot of investable assets, which means money typically that's not in 401k, but they have, there's a lot of financial firms that won't serve them, aren't set up to serve them well because the firm's revenue is based on your ability to invest money with them. So I was seeing that in women, in a lot of cases, they could be 30, 40, 50, well established in their career, making a lot of money, but just didn't have enough to meet our minimum.
Or maybe went through a life event where something happened where a big portion of assets disappeared or whatever it may be. So.
Or they just didn't have control of the money.
Or that too.
But they wanted to make a plan. And that was creating some frustration in me that I couldn't help those people that, again, I saw as in a similar place in life or on the same journey. And so I reached out to you because I had connected with you through Twitter.
Back when, before it became a cesspool?
Back before. I still love Twitter. To this day, I know you have different
feelings. When will you figure it out? We're waiting, Jess.
I will not. I found some of my favorite people, including your wife.
This is true. It did have some pluses, but I think that's where it ended.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah. I saw there was a specific post that you had done that stood out to me that was related to women and the way that they're treated sometimes in financial services. And so I think I DM'd you and I said, hey, if you're ever open for a conversation, I'd love to talk. And,
and I was like, who's this crazy person? Block?
Probably.
No, I'm just...
No, you were very gracious. And that, that stood out to me as well as something that I respected and appreciated, was someone that I felt like had so much experience in the industry and had, forged a successful path, was still willing to talk to someone like me that was very new and green and not sure what I wanted to do, but I had a big passion inside of me to do something important for women. And, in the back of my mind too, figuring out what is this next step for me? How do I get to a place where I can serve in this industry in a way that's meaningful for me. Yeah, no, you're very gracious, and we had a conversation. I remember I was at Thanksgiving with my parents at my parents' house, and I told Lawson, my husband, like, okay, I've got this really important conversation. I'm gonna have to step out of the room. For me, it was a big deal to be talking to you, and it was the start of what has become a friendship and just industry collaboration over time, and then eventually led to us having discussions about.
Yeah, I love helping advisors out, especially those that kind of just starting their journey and making sure that they're doing the right things over the hard to say 25 plus years that I've been doing this now. And, I've made a ton of mistakes over the years. So it's easier for me to say, look, I've done this. If you want to try it, go ahead. But chances are you're going to realize it was a mistake. You might as well just not move down that path and do something else. So I always enjoy talking to people, especially in our industry, and trying to pay it forward and help out in that regard.
I will say, though, there's a difference between the way that, or the experience that I had with you versus the experience that I've had with some others in the industry. Part of being a change maker and part of breaking down those barriers to women does mean doing things differently.
Yeah.
And so just because it didn't work, and pardon me for this one moment, just because it didn't work for a white man to be able to get money from another white man doesn't mean that it won't and can't and shouldn't be something that we try in order to expand into serving some of the more marginalized people in this industry. And so again, because I knew that you had a passion for that, I trusted your advice about things that might work versus might not work, because I sensed that you cared about breaking down those barriers as well. And so the advice you were giving wasn't, here's how you can stay in this lane and make the most money here, don't look at any other things. Hey, here's really truly some things that don't work for helping you connect with the people that you're trying to connect with. And I just appreciated that aspect of it as well.
Thank you. I'm getting all choked up. All right.
Okay, I'll stop saying so many nice things.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Appreciate that. So we started working together officially, how long? 6 months ago? Something less than that?
4 or 5.
Something like that. Anyways.
We're getting close to 6, but yeah.
So yeah, when I saw that you were looking to make a change in your career path, I talked to Rosa and I was like, we need to work with Jess. Really love, number one, you're an amazing individual and just think very highly of you. So I want to have people like that as part of the team and make sure that our clients are able to work with it. But so I'm glad our paths finally were able to meet.
Same.
So let's talk a little bit more about what people could expect from these episodes and share a little bit about that. I think,
Mom, this part's for you.
so a big part of what we like to do is share the stories that we've gone through and talk about how that affected our lives, come up with different ways. Your blog, Step Forward, it allows you to kind of talk about all the different things, what to do. I like to have action steps in mind, action items in mind. So it's helpful for that. So a lot of the stuff that we write about, we'll be sharing and talking about our stories. And I think a big part of this is going to be how to help you get through the hurdles, different things that are happening. And we want to provide as much resources for women to be able to make educated decisions to help get them out of kind of that fog. There's a lot of, whether it be shame, whether it be indecision, whether it be confusion, a lot of industry jargon, blah, blah, blah. Try to break it down, make it as easy as possible for them to be able to move forward and do things, whether they utilize a professional like us or on their own. A part of this is creating that community and having everyone be able to help each other out.
Yeah, that the newsletter is really important to me. I like that you brought up the fact that we have a little bit of a different approach and different focus, because When I write, I love writing, actually. It's always been a
I
passion and
don't.
something that I enjoy doing. Um, and it's always been hard for me to write about money. And it's because for me, taking a very practical thing and trying to insert that into my writing has always been about creating a place of belongingness
Right.
and safety for people, a place
Right.
where they can relate to an experience that I'm having, uh, and kind of see behind the curtain of what is going on in my life, or the things that way that I think about things. And it's just taken me some time to figure out my thoughts about money and be able to share what is going on behind the curtain, because so much of it has just been catching in my mind, catching up for the
Right.
past
Right.
8 years. And I'm finally at a place now in a firm with people who value my thoughts and opinions on money and have encouraged me to move in the direction of working uh, with women and putting out resources and thoughts about money for women. And so it's been really fun to craft that and cultivate that in this Step Forward newsletter, so that women can come there and they can feel like somebody hears them, understands them, that they belong, that there's some trust and some safety that's being built, that maybe some of these issues are some things that they've been tumbling around in their head and not sure how to move forward on, giving them a few practical steps, but mostly just saying, I hear you. You belong here.
Right.
This is a safe, this is a good space for you to just lean in. And then when you're ready to take that next step, I'm here. And that's been really enjoyable to develop.
So what are you passionate about right now?
Like specifically with the
Working with women.
yeah. So women 50 plus have been, as I really started to dive in and dial in, it seems to me that that becomes the moment where they start transitioning from accumulating into, now, how do I establish myself
Right.
with my wealth and my resources, and do the most good that I can for myself and for the people that I care about. I see a lot with women that the reason that they build resources is so that they can provide. And I think a lot of that transition in their mind happens in the 40s and into the early 50s, where things just start to, in a lot of cases, fall into place, and they become settled with who they are and what they've built. And it becomes now really important to make sure that they manage that, that they share that, that they continue to grow that, that they provide with that in the maximum way possible. And so that to me seems like just a really important and enjoyable place to intercept women, provide that support.
Yeah, this is one of the there's a lot of things about you that I love, but this is one of the things that I really love about you, and why I thought it was a great fit for us to be working together and doing this podcast together, as far as being able to help people. And, you know, part of me wants to make the industry better, and I want to help pay it forward and grow the firm and educate. That's very important to me. But having someone like you that's able and wanting to work with women and help them and hold their hands, take them down that path, is truly remarkable and very, very important. So I think there's a lot of good that we're going to do here. And it's been hard for us to, both of us have witnessed, women get taken advantage of them. So I'm hoping that this will be a great way for us to advocate for them and help them out as much as possible. So part of the other things that we had talked about before was helping kind of build the bridges and providing them access to a lot of material, because that's obviously one of the holdups. There's just so much information out there, and people just get confused. So I think giving them good information, providing them access, helping kind of build that bridge between here's where you are, here's where you want to be, how do we help you get there? I'm hoping that we'll be able to do a lot of that here on the show.
Yeah, and that's something that I appreciate about what we're doing, how we're building, what you're focused on, what I get to focus on. I'm still at the point in my career where I love diving into that one-to-one relationship. I love sitting down with a client, talking about whether it's the tile that they're putting on their bathroom wall or their grandkids and the fact that they're choosing a school next year. Just those little fibers of connection,
Right.
building that with people, hearing those stories, seeing how the money matters to them. All that's really important. But then there's also this next level. So there's that one-to-one relationship that we have, but then there's also this next level of services in the industry and partners that we have in the industry that are tuning in to how we need to differentiate our services to women. But there's still a lot of work to be done at that level.
Right.
And I can't do both. That's just too much of an ask to have that one-to-one relationship with the client and also be advocating for them at that larger level. And I love that you're at the point in your career now where you're wanting to do those advocacy pieces and have enough experience in your career to know what's important to advocate for.
Are you saying I'm old again? Is that what this is
This
about?
is going to come up a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
gee.
So I don't know if there's any relationships or partners that we have that you've built that we're working with directly in the firm that you want to speak to, but I do appreciate and trust that we can do more for women because we have both of those levels working.
Got you. Yeah, no, I think, like I said, it's perfect. I think we'll wrap shortly. One of the last things is just talking about the community that we're building. I think I would love for people to be able to go to our website, joinfew.com, join FEW, which stands for Financially Empowered Women.com. And there you'll be able to find a bunch of different resources, tools, and other things and connect with us. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episodes. Talk to you soon.